All right, let's hope we're not getting rugged this week and no megaphone from Sam.
Yeah, let's see. Can we confirm that my voice is normal?
Doing good. Whenever there's no music, I know everything's all good.
AI Sam is dead to us.
That's one version of myself that I'm okay with killing. What an insanely packed show today. Not only some of the best panelists we've maybe ever had, also on the giveaway front. Shout out to everybody that gave us some amazing prizes to give away and everybody that's jumping into space right away. We got Cityverse, Whitelist, we got Hexacore Silver Passes, we got Love Monster NFTs, another game on AVAX that's actually playable already through the App Store if anybody hasn't had a chance to check that out. Always makes me really happy.
I just want to say, you saying that this show is some of the best panelists you ever had. For anyone who was on previous shows, take that, you motherfuckers. You're subpar.
That includes us, you and me, Koji.
I know. I know.
Especially maybe even you and
This is almost a one-for-one run back of the GDC rooftop at the Den.
which was one of my favorite episodes of all time. Sorry, Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was there for that, so I'll take that.
And that's when the well said meme was born.
God, Koji exposed me on a level that I hoped never would happen in Web 3 that day. But here we are. My favorite go-to term is just out the window. Can never say it without a guilty conscience ever again.
Dude, he exposed you while looking right at you, telling you right then and there.
Right into
Hey,
my
that was
soul.
the episode where Parallel sold out to Solana, right?
No, I sold out to Philip Morris because I wanted cigarettes really, really badly.
Koji's a security risk, confirmed. All right, guys, let's jump into it. So many amazing intros to get through. From 360s on the slopes to 360 no scopes, meet the man who channels the raw intensity of John Wick into every arena he conquers. He's the supreme head of community and partnerships at Shrapnel, the ultimate enforcer of engagement. Once the strategist steering a sporting goods division of a $14 billion empire, he's now the iron-willed warrior navigating the perilous paths of Web3 gaming. He's the sharpshooter of Shrapnel, the undisputed king of controllers. The redemption arc continues with Dub. Or does it? Or does it? All right, we'll double back. We'll double back. Buckle up because our next guest is the architect behind the ascent of Soar Esports, steering into the stratosphere until it was snapped up by 11 Gaming. A scholar of the stream, a mentor to Fortnite marvels, this man navigates the nebulous nexus of gaming with ease, but that's not all. He's also a pivotal player in the powerhouse team at Magic Eden. Welcome to the panel. It's the Emperor of Esports, the Maven of Magic Eden. It's Knock. Am I high right now? What is
I'm
what is
fucking with you.
happening?
I'm fucking with you. I'm just fucking with
That
you.
was amazing. That was
Oh.
absolutely amazing. Knock absolutely
Oh,
smashed that out. I loved
I
it.
can't believe that just worked, Sam. Come on. I'm excited to be here, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a
Bravo.
killer panel.
Damn, I'm shook after that. I don't know what to do with myself. Ladies and gentlemen, scaling the heights of entertainment and commerce with a grip stronger than a bear market on Wall Street. It's the Baron of the Belay, hailing from the sheer cliffs of the snowy Silicon Valley, aka Toronto, where he's more likely to be found hanging by his fingertips than hanging out at parties. He's the entrepreneur who started more businesses than he's had hot dinners and who rolled his eyes at accolades like they're pebbles under his climbing shoes. Hold on to your harnesses and prepare for a seismic shift in excitement because here comes the Sultan of Scaling, the Prince of Parallel. Give it up. It's Koji.
I love the intro, but it broke my heart this week because I've completely destroyed my knee rock climbing. So I'm just bedridden and hobbling right now. So yeah, none of that's true for the foreseeable future. But thanks, Sam.
Oh, dude, that's such a bummer to hear, man. Get well soon. We'll keep our fingers crossed for you. If you need me to mail you some like Bengay through Amazon or something, just just shoot me a DM. From the strategic battlegrounds of esports, where he advised the legendary Team Liquid, to the cutthroat corporate jungles, where he engineered a jaw-dropping exit to none other than the Chinese behemoth Alibaba, Sinjin has played the high stakes. Played at high stakes higher than the skyscrapers of Shanghai. Jesus Lord. With daring roll of the dice, Sinjin transformed Macau into a veritable El Dorado of the East, legalizing poker in a place that outshines Las Vegas. Now he's aiming to elevate Web3 gaming with my angry Yakuza girlfriend. It's the Titan of Taboo. You know who it is. It's Sinjin.
GM, I give a shout out to my boy Lems, and thank you for having me back, guys.
And my apologies. I'm going to be rotating out some of the regular speakers that know how to navigate this stuff. I overbooked by one today, so I'm gonna switch Sinjin out. Bring up our Stardust for just a little bit. We'll be rotating, but I'll make sure I get everybody in on every topic. Up next, he's the Admiral of Arcane Arts, the Alchemist, who altered the Atlas of Gaming with his original Warcraft 3 and StarCraft mods, eventually delivering his own Dota derivative. But he didn't stop there. As an architect and anchor of Cyberdream, he brought to life the battlefield of the first VR Battle Royale and collaborated with brands like Lockheed, NASA, and Universal Studios. Add to this his astonishing athleticism, annihilating the gym with a 350-pound bench press and a blitzing mile under 5 minutes. He's not just a coder, he's a titan in tech, a behemoth of the bench. It's the Archmage of Avalon. It's Sean Pinnock.
I can't believe you actually shared the last part. That was supposed to be a joke, but I love it. It's awesome, man. Love the energy. Yeah, really thrilled to be here. Thrilled to be talking with you all. Just want to build the future of gaming and help decentralize the internet. Let's go.
Great to have you. I had to put that last part in there just so Jerry could feel physically intimidated for the first time on this panel. We that's always the W whenever we can get that in there. Rejecting the rigmarole of investment banking, he's rumbled through the ranks at Ava Labs, reveling in the revolutionary realm of Web3 gaming and bringing thousands of hours played in roguelikes along with him. He's the intern innovator. He leaped from intern to innovator. He leaped into a full throttle future at Stardust just 1 week post graduation, not just navigating, but mastering the multiverse of marketing. He's the maverick of buying media, the wizard of wallet sales. From Stardust, it's Wills.
Hey, this is Andy. We're still in the process of getting Will's hooked into the Stardust account. LOL. So, little teaser for what's to come.
Amazing. All right. Well, good luck on that. I believe in you guys. I believe in you guys. He's the brainchild. He's the brains behind the blockbuster, the head honcho of hype at Infinigods, the kingpin of the God Council itself. And with his latest juggernaut on the App Store, King of Destiny, he's not just playing the game; he's poised to redefine it, turning every smartphone into a saga of success and every tap into a treasure trove. Get ready for the merchant of marketing, the gatherer of the gods, the forebearer of fate. It's Bride Santo.
Dude, my man, welcome to the God Council. Good to be up here with you. I also still cannot believe that Dub ghosted and snuffed out a living legend and a god. Great way to kick it off. First time in 66 episodes. Let's hope the rest of this goes better. Thanks, Sam.
Oh shit! Did I fuck out Sam?
I was
I
positive
blame
I was gonna find out it was like Tony trolling me or something, but
I
I was
blame
just
Peyton for having me on a call that went over. I'm sorry.
sheer negligence, Dub. It will be forgiven only in time, but maybe you're dead to me for a little bit. No, it's okay. It's okay. Marching out of the magical mansion of Nintendo, where he crafted captivating carousels, this magician isn't merely maneuvering through the world of game design. He's meticulously minting a new era, embedding enchantments both intuitive and endless. Perched atop the pinnacle of playful progress, let's welcome the marvelously mystical, the weaver of worlds, the fantastical fabricator of fun. We got Michael O'Connor back.
Hello, all. Great to be here. Looking forward to diving into the chat. Awesome panel today. And yeah, full of energy. Very pumped.
Great to have you as always, brother. Huge fan of today. The game put out another work in progress today that just had me shook, man. I just want to live inside that game. From helmet to headset, from hoses to high stakes, this former firefighter has swapped his fire truck for the fast track of financial forecasts. So brace yourselves to feel the burn of excitement as we introduce the sizzling strategist, the daring dealer of digits, the blazing baron of the boardroom, representing Uptick. It's the mastermind with the Midas touch. It's Jerry, the Golden God Singer.
Yeah, you said burn, and I think a few people in here's ears were like, I thought we were talking about something else. Yeah, excited to be here, Sam. I am putting on pause my stretch and folds I'm doing for the sourdough loaf. Walter Wheat's in the building, man.
That reference went so far over my head, I don't even know what to do with myself. So I'm just going to move on. With 10,000 hours logged in first-person shooter games, he's got just barely more kills under his belt than he has golf balls lost in the woods. With his degree in chemical engineering, he transformed the idea of breaking into emerging technology into gold, and he swapped more smart contracts than Wall Street traders sip espresso shots. He's the caddy of crypto, the putter of platforms, the tea time tactician from AVAX. It's Park.
Hey, no matter how many gamified episodes I get up here, my golf strokes will never decrease. So that's just directly unrelated, but super excited to be here. This is the most refreshing hour and 45 to 2 hours of my week. And Knock, you made me laugh today. Bravo to you, man.
Oh, Knock, you were
That's a
actually
good start,
funny.
boys. We take those.
We take those.
We'll take it.
Coming in hot. He didn't even have to open his mouth for it too. It was all ventriloquism. At the helm of high-tech hooligans and hijinks, he's piloting a playground where avatars aren't just animated; they're alive with motion capture magic, AI antics, and blockchain bravado. It's a gateway to a galaxy where every player is a pioneer, every character a creation of cutting-edge tech. He's built more than just a player base; it's a thriving tribe of fervent fellowship, like a true Jedi Master fostering his Padawans. He's united them under the banner of interactivity and immersion, transforming every gamer into a guardian of their own galaxy. Welcome to the panel from iPad Hooligan. We got Skyhopper.
Hey. I've never had anybody speak so highly of me before. Thank you very much. Hooly hoo.
Hooly hoo indeed. And on today's show, actually, how can I forget? Weighing in at just 2.4 pounds, he's the small scale scholar who sticks on topics like a gecko on glass. Last but not least, brace yourself for the dynamo of diction, the petite potentate of the penned word. It's the little lizard legend. It's my co-host Lambs.
GM, everyone, and shout out Sinjin. I got Sinjin on the GM train, and Geckos on Glass. Like I like that. That is a new one. Yeah, GG, well played. Knock as well. That opener was a banger. I don't think anyone can top that through the whole show now.
We'll try our best to live up to it. On today's show, guys, we got Pixels hitting 3 million active wallets, 900,000 daily active wallets. Is that a big deal? Sony backtracks their Helldivers PSN requirements. Fantasy top, bullish or bullshit. Automatic gameplay, is it a trend or is it here to stay? And KOL rounds, pro or con. But first, let's salute and celebrate the sublime, the spectacular, the sovereign, and the supreme substrate of our Stella Saga, the official blockchain of Gamified. It's Avalanche, with its spectacular speed and scalability, skillfully simplifying the sophisticated science of subnets, allowing avant-garde architects and game gurus to craft their cutting-edge creations. It stands as a steadfast sentinel in the storm, driving the dawn of decentralized gaming with a dynamic, durable, and decidedly different approach. And built on Avalanche is none other than Shrapnel, a marvel of mayhem meticulously manifested that isn't just redefining the rules of the FPS arena. It's an extraction shooter that's tearing through the terrain of traditional gaming. What makes Shrapnel a seismic shift in the shooter genre? It's the pleasure of gearing up for glory with the goods that go beyond the game, where winning means weaving your worth into every very fabric of the future of Web3 gaming. So if you're ready to dive into a domain where your daring deeds are duly rewarded and your strategies stretch beyond the screen, it's time to boot up Shrapnel, the official game of Gamified, which is powered by none other than Stardust. Stardust is lighting the way with its wallets as a service offering, a marvel of modern technology that melts away the mayhem of managing digital assets, making every user's experience as smooth as silk. It's not just convenience, it's revolution, redefining the user experience of your game with the touch of a button. This is where the projects pivot from potential to powerhouse with the unparalleled prowess of Stardust Wallet and user acquisition alchemy. Thank you to Stardust for being the official infrastructure of Gamified. And again, we got those Cityverse whitelists, we got Hexacore silver passes, we got Love Monster NFTs. I saw a bunch of retweets pouring in. I got so much stuff to give away. Just drop comments, retweet the stuff, and I'll make sure I give a bunch of those out in no time. But I just want to jump right into it. Big deal, little deal, no deal. Pixels hits 3 million wallets registered, 900,000, again, daily active wallets. We've talked about Pixels numbers a few different times on this show, but is there a number at which this finally becomes a big deal? Or are people always going to disqualify it with, yeah, but a lot of these are bots, so we don't care. Big deal, little deal, no deal. And a quick reminder for some of the new faces we have on this show, we use a hand system on Gamified, so if you want to chime in on any topics, just raise the hand and I'll make sure I get around to you. I'm sending it over to my co-host Lems to kick us off in the right direction.
All right, I'm going to kind of break the rules right off the bat and say it's a moderate to big deal. Like, I'm not going to choose big or little deal because, who cares about lifetime wallets? That's just like registered users, basically means nothing. I will say though, having almost 900K DAU or DAW and then almost 3 million registered, like that's almost a third of them. That's a pretty impressive percentage. We can still assume a fair chunk of them are bots. There's probably some alt accounts in there, but they're past their airdrop campaign. I know they still have like, ecosystem rewards and stuff, but people expected their users to drop off a cliff right after they did their airdrop, and it didn't. They're continuing to maintain attention and hype in the space. So I think that's a credit to them. They've been consistently building. So, fair play to Pixels, and they have stickiness, and let's see where they go from here.
I'm going to tag in Koji up next, then we're going to Skyhopper.
Yeah, I say big deal, mainly because if anyone else had these numbers, we'd be talking the same shit. So it's got to mean something. You can extrapolate from that data what you will, but like everyone complaining is also would be the first to be like, yo, we have all these fucking wallets though, and everyone wants to play our game and whatever. And who cares if it, I mean, it's not who cares if it's bots, but like that, at the end of the day, it's just more marketing hype. So I think anyone who says little deal is probably sad and jealous like myself.
Over to Luke Skyhopper behind my pet hooligan.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same. It's big deal. Even if it's bots, it's big deal. I ain't going to hate. Ultimately, what is the measure of success here? Is it revenue in? Is it token volume? Is it token price for the next few years? Whilst emissions are happening, or all of those? I guess in this space, it is news, right? Most laymen don't really understand how the space works. To them, it's a big number. Big numbers often make other numbers go up, and newsworthy events make other numbers go up as well. So I don't know personally. I'm looking at some of the Steam stats right now, and some of the biggest games in the world don't have 900,000 daily players. But we all know how this space works. A lot of us in here definitely do. You see it with the social farming projects. Probably a lot of them were claiming over 1 million wallets have signed up. Some of them were having. I shouldn't even be saying this on this account, but some of them were definitely having trouble making any noise or raising money last year. But now it's a gift, right? Great stats. The stats then used to drive investment, drive exchanges for listings. It's all about building the narrative and making the news. And again, what are you here for? You're here for now. You're here to make a little bit of hype or buzz now. You're here for years, kind of ahead. So it's all about kind of showing and proving over the long term. Next time, I'm coming on my own account so I can say more controversial stuff.
I appreciate the pragmatism coming up from the panel right away. Over to Jerry from Uptick.
Yeah, I think it has to be a big deal, right? And to prove that point, I think if any other game in the space had 900,000 users, bots or not, they would fucking plaster it everywhere, and it would be the number one thing that they ever talked about. So I think just based on that alone, it has to be a big deal. I think anybody who says anything otherwise is kind of a hater. They're doing really well, and they're one of our best success stories.
Knock from Magic Eden tagging you in.
Yeah, first, I think it's important to distinguish between 900,000 daily active users and 900,000 daily active wallets. Those are two incredibly different metrics. So right out of the gate, it's really important that we acknowledge that we're talking about wallets here. The second piece is find me a single MMORPG or social MMO that doesn't have a very sizable portion of their total users as bots. It's a common place in the genre that they're playing in. I really dislike the idea that a lot of people in this space just use the phrase "it's bots" as like some magic wand that just discredits everything that the Pixels team has built. It's a game that is now past most of the levers that people thought they had to pull when it comes to bringing in users, and they still have a ton of users connecting to the DApp daily. I think it's incredibly impressive. It's a big deal. We shouldn't just be blasting them because there are bots. Literally every game ever has a shit ton of bots, and we need to be cognizant about what we're actually talking about. We're talking about number of wallets connected, not individual number of users. Those are two widely different metrics, especially for 5 different wallets that we use on a regular basis. I think it's a big deal.
Tagging in Sean Pinnock from Avalon.
What's up, guys? So I'm not going to say it's a big deal. It's a huge fucking deal. Yeah, here's why. I mean, look, one of my partners, he's one of the founders of EverQuest, right? And there's a shitload of bots in that game, tons of bots in that game. Probably a third of the users on that game were bots, right? Now, I think the question is really how many bots are on there, right? Is it 90% of the players are bots? Is it, if it is, holy crap, that's some great tech. I want to know about it so I can use it. Kind of joking. But if it's 50% bots, I mean, that's still incredible, guys. With 500,000 real people playing the game every day, I mean, you're a top 10 game on Steam. right? Like you're now competing with many of the biggest games that are out there, many of the MMOs. So yeah, I think it's a huge deal.
Some great comments coming out of the audience. Icy says, good news, you can't be purged from listening to Gamified. If anybody saw the news that Wolves DAO just completed another purge, at least you can enjoy this. Metamona says, come get Web3 gaming smart. Hit us with a quote, so we'd appreciate you, Mona. L1 says, another week, another Gamified. I'll be building a Cathari killer deck in parallel while listening. Also, this is Cathari FUD. That one's just for Koji. I'm sending it over to Brad DeSanto from Infinigods next.
Yeah, it's a big fucking deal. I think, and they deserve their flowers. I think, a lot of people thought Pixels was riding sort of the Axie wave and riding their coattails. It couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, they've come into their own, and I think the metric I look at is number of paying users. I think the last stat I saw was about 300,000 or 400,000 users had bought something in their game. So if you just look at it as a percentage of their overall player base, bots or not, that is very difficult to fake. So a game cracking revenue at that scale is impressive. I think also, it can't be understated how influential and big them getting on Binance is and hooking sort of that side of the equation. I mean, very few gaming projects are on Binance at all. Their performance has been strong. It paves the way for a lot of other projects in the same vertical to hopefully do the same. So for me, I say thank you. It makes all of our lives a little bit easier when we choose to go that direction. So salute to those guys.
Great stuff, Brian. Michael O'Connor from Today the Game.
And yeah, I think it's also unsurprisingly, I think it's unsurprisingly a big deal. Their numbers are massive, and yeah, of course, heavily botted. Like kind of the whole crypto industry is heavily botted across all social channels, inclusive. And that's the industry that we work in. They used those metrics to do a Binance deal. They gave a pretty substantial amount of their token allocation to Binance to get that deal done. But they've been very community oriented, and that has been very, very powerful for them. And I think the additional reason that this is a big deal as well is because this had to be a big deal for Ronan, right? This was Ronan's big play. After Axie Infinity, can Ronan, you might have seen that Ronan, flipped Axie in terms of market cap for a token. Ronan has taken up a publisher kind of style model where they're bringing in games into their ecosystem. And this was the big play, and it had to work. As Axie declines and Ronan emerges as a major player inside of the gaming ecosystem, and they bet heavily on making Pixels work. And it has. And actually, I think the important fact is not just these numbers, but actually the amount of paying users that are buying these subscriptions and directly contributing to real revenue. So yeah, those numbers matter, and those numbers are real because that's money going in, that's revenue going in. So big deal for sure.
For a little bit of context there, I realize not everybody might understand what Michael's alluding to whenever he says he heard that they gave Binance a big chunk of their token. I have no idea what Pixels did in particular, but I've heard a little bit more about this recently. Usually to get on some of these tier one exchanges, quote unquote, you might give up 10% on the low side if you really are in a powerful position, and 20% on the high side of your token supply to get access to the liquidity on one of these tier one exchanges. So I thought that might be some interesting alpha to share for people that aren't tapped into the ecosystem. Dub from Shrapnel, giving you the last word before we move on.
Yeah, trying to FUD Ronin and Pixels is the same as trying to FUD Cathari. It's just a bunch of haters at the end of the day that need to get good at what they're doing. And ultimately, I was really blown away this weekend because I was watching Hontel do a stream for Kydro through the Moku platform, and one of the activations was in Pixels, and it was literally hey, find me on this island, wear a Kydro outfit, and I'll give you this bottle of boo, whatever thing. And just hundreds of people were just chasing them down, following them, trying to be the one to interact and trade with them. And that's not bots. I actively watched hundreds of players just on a random Saturday going on this activation. So clearly there's something really here, and haters are just hating. Don't touch my Cathari. Get good.
Using your platform for good, Dub. All right, appreciate you. And Joka in the comments says, "Oh, I'm a bit late today. Missed some of Sam's bars in the intros, but I can't wait for the Wolves Dow spot giveaway today." I'm sorry, my friend. That's something I'm not allowed to give away. And then he also follows it up with Pixels is going to continue to be this popular as long as it's the easiest way to earn $3 a day, which I think encapsulate it pretty damn well. We're moving on though. All right, let's give out Love Monster NFT to Njoka, and then I'll pick a retweeter in just a second as well. We're going to move on to the next topic, which is what's the word for PlayStation / Sony reversing their Helldivers 2 requirements. I assume a lot of people are educated on this, but I'm going to read a little bit of context here just in case. The TLDR is basically that Helldivers' deal with Sony as a publisher meant that they were going to require a PlayStation Network account starting May 30th. The problem with this isn't that it's just create an account and then you can log in with it. PSN accounts cost about $10 per month, and the game is multiplayer only, which means that you have to have a subscription at all times to be able to log in. The result of this was a massive review bombing, which caused Sony to release this statement. Helldivers fans, we've heard your feedback on Helldivers 2 account linking update. The May 6th update, which would have required Steam and PlayStation Network account linking for new players, will not be moving forward. I just want to add a little bit of context from my own personal experience here. I've been playing Diablo 4 on couch co-op with my fiance on PlayStation, and it is so frustrating because we've played across like 8 months, but we play like one time a month, and every time I have to reactivate my fucking PlayStation Network account just to boot up and play. So it's like a $10 rental to sit down and play Diablo 4 with her, which I own, by the way, for like 40 minutes. It drives me nuts. Dub from Shrapnel has the hand up first. Your thoughts on PlayStation reversing this decision?
Yeah, it actually makes me hopeful, I guess is the word I want to throw out there. Like, hopeful when we actually like have a problem like this. Like, imagine if one community, just for whatever reason, like the Pixels one, for example, demanded that they moved off of Ronin and went to AVAX or something. That's the same thing, the same way I look at these like major Web 2 issues with PlayStation and Xbox and how they're managing like expectations of their player base. And like, holy shit, like, are we ready for like issues like that to emerge in our space? And like, will we be able to handle it as easily as PlayStation is? I think we're going to be like more locked into things personally. So it's really interesting and opens up a lot of questions for me on what our market's going to see in the long term.
Lems, what's the word, my man?
I don't have one words. I have two words. Democracy wins. Shows the power of the community, right? Like this is like Dub said. I mean, we've already kind of seen this already in our space, Dub. It's like hasn't been as prevalent. We don't have as many people, but chains and things like have changed airdrops and various things based on community pushback. And I think it's great to see the community get together and rally behind it. We saw the Helldivers had a lot of hype, and it was like they were going to capitalize on this and start, farming them out for $10 a month, which is kind of a bullshit thing to do, especially if you're playing on Steam. You're not even playing on PlayStation. You need a PSN subscription if you're on Steam. So I'm really glad they reversed it. And to me, this is like a win for the community. And hopefully we just see more trends of this going forward where, a game dev or publisher tries to put out a shitty thing and the community rallies against it. They have to pull a 180 to preserve their game. So yeah, win for the community, win for gamers.
Over to Knock.
Yeah, my word here is confusion on my own part, on the part of the publisher, on the part of the developer, on the part of the users. I mean, one, I think first and foremost, it's actually a PSN network account, but I don't believe it's a subscription. I think it's as simple as signing up, which is still bullshit because the game was listed on Steam in regions that don't have access to PlayStation Network. So, subscription costs aside, there was a sizable portion of users who bought the game on Steam who, when this change was supposed to be enacted, literally could not create a PlayStation account. What's probably happening in the back end is Sony saw the success of Helldivers. They wanted all these users to create PSN accounts so that they could sell that data to data brokers and make a bunch of money off it that way. I don't know if it's necessarily a subscription play. Where I think this gets further confusing for me personally, and this is a little bit of an open question to some of the game developers on this panel. The actual CEO of Arrowhead Studios, which is the team that made Helldivers, was tweeting with some phrasing that made it sound like he had no idea that one, this was going to happen the way that it happened, and two, that the PlayStation Network was blocked or geo blocked in certain regions on Earth. And part of what he said was effectively, we didn't know that once this change came into place, the titles that they bought on Steam. So my question, and part of the confusion that I have here, is how the fuck did this happen? How does Arrowhead, it seemingly not have all the information as to how their proposed deal with Sony and the PlayStation Network even works? How did Sony think that this was a good idea to do retroactively 3 months after the game has been live, after they've sold copies to people in regions where PlayStation Network is blocked entirely? And most importantly, I'm proud of the Helldivers community, one, for making as much noise as they did. It is one of the best games I've played in a very long time, and the community is a real big portion of why I believe that that's the case. But after this was reverted, they actually went back, the majority of them went back to Steam and changed user reviews. So if you look at the graph of the reviews on Steam, this game went from one of the highest rated games of all time on Steam to mostly negative reviews in the course of just 24 hours back to overwhelmingly positive reviews. So it's a real testament to the power of that community. But yeah, my question is, how did Arrowhead seemingly have like so little information about how this deal with PlayStation and PlayStation LLC was going to work? Like, I'm just so confused and blindsided by most of this. Yeah, it's a great point. I'm going to give a Hexacore Silver Pass to Calbear for the retweet. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. It speaks to the lack of communication that Knox says it doesn't take a PSN subscription. I think it does take a PSN subscription. There's a geo-locking thing. I've talked to probably 5 different people on it, and at least 4 of them said, yes, I believe it takes a subscription. But the lack of clarity there, especially like we're doing research for a show and we still don't even fucking know, like that's a huge issue. Casuals, 12-year-olds with PSN or Steam accounts are not going to fucking know. So it's an issue no matter what. Stardust, I believe Wills is with us now. Over to you.
Yeah, it's Wills here, and thanks so much for the intro, Sam. Sorry I couldn't thank immediately after it went up. But yeah, on Helldivers, I think this really just speaks to expectation setting because the gaming is entertainment. People are trying to kick back, trying to relax, and when they have to go through all of these extra steps, from a corporate standpoint, PlayStation is thinking, oh, this is just a login, or maybe it's $10. Depending on what it actually is, it'll be a super light lift. This can't go wrong for us. But as soon as you stop people from being able to enjoy the actual game, you're immediately hindering everyone else. And that's the thing, because gaming is entertainment, there are other things to do. There are other games to play, and people will just go and play other things. So I think it's really a matter of expectation setting. And I think Nock was alluding to this earlier with, across the market and with NFTs and projects, and especially in Web3, people want to know what they're getting with their buck, and that's going to be really important moving forward.
Over to Sean from Avalon.
Yeah, so I mean, it was the right thing to do, but it was the right thing to do because they did the math and they said, hey, we'll make more money and we'll maintain a better relationship with our audience if we roll this back. But I can tell you, if they were big enough, they wouldn't give a shit, right? If they were Roblox with 80 million daily active users, or like Steam does right now, charges the developers 30% because they have a complete monopoly over the space, they wouldn't give a shit what people said because they can do whatever they want. And it's exactly why we need to build Web3 democracy and decentralization into the future game and future technology. And it's why I'm building Avalon inside of Web3.
Let's go, Sean. Oh, Sean filling the Paul Bettner role today of just getting me pumped up about being in Web3. Koji from Parallel, over to you.
So all you guys complaining, you're gonna make all of your games work on every chain, right? Oh, just checking, just checking. So I think the major fuck up, right, is that like they did this after the fact. If they had released the game being like, hey, it's going to be, you need a PlayStation count to play this, like it would be fine. And anyone who says otherwise, like fucking sorry, but exclusivity is a big piece of the gaming industry, right? That's why we had like the console wars. That's what made consoles better, is because these guys were trying to get a leg up on each other. And so I think that like you can't really rally against exclusivity. What you need to do is just like you can't do this after the fact. You can't be like, oh, this game's actually a big hit. We had no idea. Now we want to just like grab a bunch more money from people. Like that's kind of fucked up. But I do think that like the idea that a game like this could be PlayStation exclusive is fine if they had just done that from the outset.
Great stuff, Koji. Trevor says, as a Ronin creator, I have my own bias towards the game and ecosystem, but appreciate the perspectives from all the speakers from a non-biased point of view. And then he also gave us a quote tweet and says, great discussion around pixels and bots. Was actually surprised to hear all the positive praise regarding pixels and from the speakers. Gamified speakers actually know their stuff. Kudos. Appreciate that, Trevor. We're going to hook you up with a Cityverse whitelist. Thanks so much. Back on topic to Sony and PlayStation. I'm sending it to Park, and then we're going to Sinjin.
My word is a Web3 word, and it's governance. I think that, especially for Helldivers being so democratic in their how they do things, would take part in finding governance. And I think that while maybe we haven't pinpointed like the perfect solution with how Web3 and governance can work, I think it does point to a need in the industry to call on your community before making these ridiculous, drastic changes within your community. And I don't know if it's by tokens or solutions, but I do think having solutions in place for governance and community, participation earlier rather than walking things back and having blowback on your brand is a value add that Web3 does happen to enable. But everybody here knows that, so I don't have to show that. I just think it's something that these publishers could take heed in.
Web3 fixes it, kind of. Sinjin, over to you.
Yeah, just to answer Nog's question, I think in this case with the PC publisher, you have it as a PlayStation, and then Arrowhead is the actual Arrowhead Games, the actual studio that develops it. And so usually, the games before they get developed will usually go to a publisher or afterwards and get a contract. And so this is, the big issue in Web3 is like a lot of Web2 studios, like they really don't have a lot of experience in publishing. But in this case, I think there was probably a roadmap done by PlayStation. Basically either the CEO was unaware of it or they decided to change the strategy halfway through. Obviously, they changed it back, but I think what ended up happening was as well that on Steam, that Steam started to give refunds actually because they were starting to also block users through the Steam platform. That I think there was like 100, like whichever many countries were that didn't have the PlayStation.
177.
So yeah, 177. Yeah.
That's an absolutely insane number of countries. I didn't realize it was that hard. Sean chiming in the comments as well. He said it can fix it if we build it right. To be fair to the Helldivers team, they might have made a change even if they didn't have to. But not everyone will be that benevolent. Very well said there, Sean. Michael O'Connor from Today the Game. Your thoughts on the PlayStation Sony debacle? What's the word, my man?
I think that that publishers in games ask you to do lots of stuff, and I think that publisher platforms, like the Sonys of this world or the Nintendos of this world, can ask you to do even more stuff and hold even more sway over how things will play out. And trying to manage that is a challenge for developers. Like I've seen that firsthand, and yeah, I think. Especially, I think Koji alluded to the fact that this happened after the fact. If this was all done before and it just, it was that way and it was just accepted, that would have been one thing. But changing things in this way and then not managing the PR, I think, and the community in such a way that it could have been mitigated, I think was a major issue. And also, I just want to, another thing jumped to mind as we were speaking about this. Something's kind of like it was different, but it was on a way larger scale when it was Oculus back there. Before it was Meta Quest, it was the Oculus Quest, and you could log in with your Oculus ID. And then they decided, actually, do you know what? Anyone who owns a Quest should be a Facebook user as well, because that's going to mean shitloads more data for us as Facebook and stuff like that. So they changed that, and they were like, you need a Facebook. People who've never had Facebook before need to create a Facebook if you want to use what was essentially pretty much one of the only ways to have VR besides Vive and a few other kind of smaller manufacturers. And people went berserk because it was a massive changing of the goalposts. If that was just there the way it was always there, people wouldn't have probably bothered with it too much. But it was that change which caused a massive kerfuffle. Ultimately resulting in Facebook and Meta changing that policy and allowing people to log in. So I think there's a couple of different things at play. It's the challenges of dealing with that publisher platform model for developers, alongside of managing the PR that comes with some difficult changes. And I think it could have been handled a bit better from all sides.
Amazing parallel there, Michael. Appreciate you bringing that up. Jordan Feinstein in the comments with a little bit of a conspiracy theory here. He says, I heard Sony did it because their quarterly report was coming and they wanted to juice the numbers, but I haven't seen it confirmed. Appreciate you adding in that context at the end. Wills from Stardust, I'll give you the last word before we move on.
Yeah, so my last word is going to be optionality, because what kind of came to mind as we were talking about sort of how this was forced on people, like how differently would this have gone if Arrowhead and Sony worked together to make like a PlayStation cape, and when you log in, it gives you, hey, if you log in with a PlayStation account, you get a PlayStation cape, and it's presented as an option. And then there would have been no negative PR, no nothing, and Sony probably could have juiced their numbers if that was their goal. And I think that that's something that people in the gaming community really appreciate, is having the option to do things. And when they're given that choice and given that autonomy to play the game as they want to play it, you're much more likely to see results. And you can kind of use scenarios like this, which has turned into a major negative for both Sony and Arrowhead, could have been a positive if presented in that light.
Michael O'Connor put the hand back up. Curious on your response.
Yeah, just wanted to say I love that take, because there are ways to incentivize these types of behavior, and actually one of the things that I think Web3 gaming has been really good at is finding ways to incentivize specific behaviors. So yeah, just wanted to echo, I suppose, that point on the opportunity to handle these things in the right way. It is there. There's beautiful design opportunities, beautiful community opportunities, and sometimes these negatives can be turned into positives.
Great takes across the board, guys. Appreciate you. We're moving on to bullish or bullshit. Fantasy Top. I know everybody's been hearing about it. The social media trading card game that allows you to treat Twitter influencers as fantasy sports. Fantasy Top recently announced its main competition with over 150K in Ethereum and 222,222 blast gold as prizes. So just over 200,000. Maybe I should just say that next time. Players can also win card packs and other in-game rewards. The estimated value of the Blast Gold component alone is worth over $2 million. Is this the ultimate Web3 game? Insanely financialized, no real gameplay? Or is it just another blip on the radar of SocialFi? I'm curious on people's perspective. Real quick, I'm going to give let's do another Love Monster NFT to Finesse, who has a MyPed Hooligan PFP as well. Thanks for the quote tweet. He says, don't miss out on getting alpha for the future of gaming. Appreciate you tremendously. I'm going to Dub. Your thoughts on Fantasy Top?
Yeah, dude. And it's another blip in the sun for me. I mean, in my mind, as soon as the Blast Gold rewards run out, so does their like attention in this entire market. But what is really interesting is seeing comments saying, like, from Jonah, for example, saying that if you're not considering SocialFi, you're like, get the hell out, like, because there's something here. And like, even for us at Shrapnel, I've been talking a lot about it and how like maybe there is something around leaderboards or what have you that is really interesting, and maybe this is a new way of interacting with the game and like a new version of leaderboards, for example, that we can see exist and show up in our games.
Yeah, there's definitely some lessons to be taken from this. Also, Jeremy Horn, friend of the show, mentioned that he's about to release something that, quote unquote, will shake up SocialFi. So really, really curious to see what his interpretation is there. Real quick note on those Love Monster NFTs that I'm giving out. They actually gave us some commons, some rares, and an epic. So anytime I say that you want a Love Monster NFT, there's a chance that it might be the epic or the rares as well. Excited for that. Koji, I'm tagging you in, brother.
Yeah, it's both, man. It's a blip, and it's going to be fucking huge. It's going to be the fucking huge blip because, I mean, give the people what they want, right? It's a little taste of the Gamba, a little taste of the social, and then like it feeds into the egomania that like is the coal in the train of like of CT basically. So why not? And it also has the added bonus of making the people at the bottom feel like absolute dog shit so that the people on top can like lord over them, which is like everything the space could possibly want, and pictures. So NFTs are fucking back, baby. you know. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of kidding, but at the same time, I'm absolutely not kidding. I do think like, it's gonna be the next like thing for a while, and then it'll go away and something else will replace it. But like for the time being, it's gonna be huge. So like get involved or whatever. I mean, Friend Tech, like you look at them too, right? People talk a lot of shit about them, but then they had a huge moment and then it kind of lulled, and now maybe it's making a comeback or whatever. I see people posting about it again. So there's definitely something there. And if you are the type who likes to, dabble in a little gamba, then fucking go for it, man.
Just dabbling a little bit. Jaxie in the comments says Fantasy Top paid 1.2 million to KOLs to shill it, so it's just the hot topic today. Curious if that's another conspiracy theory, or if you have anything to back that up. I'd be inclined to read that. Brian DeSanto, over to you, brother.
Dude, this is why I love Web3, because we invent the most degen possible shit and spend exorbitant amounts of money on it. I think they made 10 or 15 million dollars on pack sales in a week. You take DFS, you take fantasy, which is tried and true as one of America's and the world's pastimes, and you apply it to crypto Twitter. I mean, I think it's the kind of thing that, am I investing in it at this stage? No. I think like all of these other blips, you can look at crypto valleys recently. They will peak, they will trough, and they'll probably fade into some level of irrelevance. But I think to watch it develop at the early stages and see what it's done to the psychology of the space, to me, has been absolutely fascinating. So I think what they'll do is end up releasing new batches with new creators. Shout out some people here. I'm shocked that the gaming space is not represented yet. Like, let's get some crews up there, and then maybe our relationship with it'll change. But I also think Pac-Man is the Ponzi wizard. He will find ways to keep the Blast Gold fiasco going. I know of a couple of large gaming projects moving to Blast. So I think you're going to see more legitimate product move that way that, maybe can draft off of the Fantasy Top Gold Rush. But all in all, I think it's been a fascinating evolution of SocialFi. I think, it kind of takes some of the principles that we saw with Friend Tech, but I think it's a bit more friendly and a bit less cutthroat and a little bit more fun to participate in. And I'm just excited to see what they do next. I think it's been novel and innovative, and I'm rooting for them and everybody involved to crush it.
Great stuff, Bri. Brian Kimball, speaking of Bris in the audience, says, how far are we from creating or from seeing creator ETFs? I think that would be a really, really interesting meta to see evolve. I'm going to give Brian Kimball a Love Monster NFT. Appreciate you, man. I'm tagging in Skyhopper behind the MyPed Hooligan account. Bullish or bullshit on Fantasy Top.
Actually, I've not played it, so I'm going to give you a slightly different perspective here. I actually got my first overview of it from a Crypto Gorilla video. So shout out to Crypto Gorilla. I know you're listening right now. In fact, if you're on crypto Twitter, you can't avoid it, right? All the usual folks with big accounts are talking about it. It's a somewhat captivating idea. Super degen, which people love in this space. Big names talking about it all the time. And from that perspective, I think at least it's a recipe for success in the short term. How long will it last? I don't know, but it seems like some people are going to be printing, right? And as Jay-Z once said, you can't knock the hustle.
We love the Crypto Gorilla. I don't know if you could hear that through the microphone, but I tried beating my chest. Over to Knock, bullish or bullshit on Fantasy Top.
I'm bullish, and maybe I'm bullish for a little bit of a different reason. I mean, listen, this is like we talked about this a little bit on Simplified Monday night or Monday afternoon, but this is like the fourth or fifth version of some type of social fly game that has come out, people have been enamored with for the course of a few weeks, and has ultimately disappeared. But I'm bullish on the concept because this is the fourth or fifth version that has worked and has grabbed attention and has literally broken Twitter for a couple of weeks. It is fucking impossible to open this app without seeing somebody tweeting about it. Apex has been tweeting about it for what feels like 6 months. I know that it's not that old, but he's been tweeting about it forever. And I think that to me, that's a signal that something is here. Sometime soon, hopefully soon, someone's going to figure out not only how to attract a shit ton of users in a short period of time, but keep them there for an extended period of time. I think that there are some mechanisms that Gorilla walked us through not too long ago within the actual Fantasy Top experience that should make life a little bit easier for new players or maybe players who don't want to spend as much money as some of the top whales within the ecosystem. Maybe that does something for player retention long term. Maybe it doesn't. But the point is, we're taking another step in the evolution of these types of platforms. And that's got me really bullish because I think at some point, someone's going to figure out the retention piece, and it is going to be a massive app, dare I say, probably even a generational style or type of app that stays for 3 or 5 or 10 years and people are excited about and continues to be iterated upon. I love the concept. I love what they're doing. I'm somebody who plays a ton of daily fantasy. And the idea of replicating something like that with people within the ecosystem is really cool to me. I don't know that this is the one that stays for years to come, but I do know that it's another step in the right direction. I'm incredibly bullish on what they're doing.
Jaxie did indeed find the proof. He has a Decrypt article stating that $1.25 million was paid to Twitter influencers to turn them into the original cards and also co-promote the game. And Joka hits us with another great comment. He says, I think Blast FOMO has only started to kick in after people have been posting big wins, farming over 1,000 Blast Gold or Pack Moon. May still be flying under the radar, could be lots of money there, but when it comes to fantasy, though, SocialFi always seems to crash and burn. Jaxie, appreciate you doubling down with the proof there. We're gonna hook you up with a Hexacore Silver Pass. Should be worth about $250 on that front. Park from AVAX tagging you in. Bullish or bullshit on Fantasy Top?
I am bullish. I think that there's three things that are inevitable. It's death, taxes, and CT's inability to avoid a good gamba. And I think that similar to what Knox said is like this is like a fourth or like fifth or 12th gin social fi attempt right here, right? And at its essence, it's just a blend of community and like a trading card game, kind of. And I think that really that's where social fi makes a lot of sense. Do I think that I'm able to speculate on each of these playing cards better than other people? Maybe so. Does that have a little bit of fun to it? A little bit. So I think, yeah, somebody said that this should be kind of gaming related. Yeah, we need some gaming names in here. I don't see Sam. I don't see several of the big names up in this Gamified today in the fantasy app. So yeah, I think we need to have a conversation with these guys because I'm bullish. I think it's exciting. Again, don't know if this is the one, but I do agree with Knock. Funny enough that it's directionally in the right direction. Yeah.
Yeah, so for the second time now, Farouk has DM'd me, been like, bro, we got to chat. We got big things happening, dog. Just like, send me your calendar. We'll hook it up. Just let me know. I send him my calendar. Fucking turns into a ghost, deletes Twitter, disappears. I think he has no Wi-Fi like Koji in the woods. Michael O'Connor, over to you, bro.
Yeah, I think it's a good bit of crack. I like it. It's fun. I mean, listen, every game worth their salt is looking for ways to connect to their communities and connecting via influencers or KOLs or whatever term we want to call these folks who've got sway over different communities it makes sense. And what these folks have done is they're gamifying that, and they're like, you know what, make that the actual game, make that whole thing the actual game. I think that's a good bit of crack. It's a nice kind of little meta, and yeah, I think there's the game within the game that they're playing with there. It's like some fucking Inception vibes going on. So I think it's good crack, and all power to them. And you know what? It's pretty smart because one of my friends I met today was who's a influential person on CT was saying, like, they're keen to get a card. They don't have a card yet, and they're pissed. They want their card. So creating that FOMO is fun. So all power to them.
FOMO may be the most effective marketing campaign in CT. We have an absolutely packed second half of the show as well. Hope you guys will stick with us. Bunch more giveaways, some great topics. We're going to go through these hands and then move on to another one. Knock, I'm going to you then to Sinjin.
Yeah, I want to just appreciate Jaxie for giving us the actual numbers and linking it. I think too often people just throw shit around without backing it up. So it's great to see. I also wanted to challenge, I think, the conversation behind why they brought up how much money was spent on influencers. Um, this is not like unique to what Fantasy Top is doing. Everybody and their mother who is doing any sort of product or anything consumer facing ever pays people and pays influencer or spends money on marketing. The trick here is that yes, they paid a shit ton of influencers to maybe push the game, but people are playing that game and they're talking about it organically, and no amount of money to any influencer will ever make that happen to a low level consumer. So I think yes, important to acknowledge that this is a team that very clearly seems to have seeded their growth, but on the flip side, it's also a product that very clearly seems to have product market fit. People want to play this sort of thing. They want to take gambles. They want to get involved, and I think that that's important to acknowledge as well. No real point. Just wanted to make that little side note.
Elisa in the comments says, I've been trying to my best to get the gaming creators in. Maybe Apex can pull some strings because he seems to be the only gaming creator that has a card. Sinjin tagging you in, brother.
Yeah, I think Michael kind of hit it on the point when he used, gamifying, because really this is like gamifying incentive farming, right? I mean, it's not really a game. I think where the progress is, it's a more advanced or better features with, the social fi itself. But, you know, we're really praising their ability, in Pac-Man to blur, to blast, their ability to create this FOMO, this lottery, inside Ponzi, whatever you want to call it. And I think the thing that's missing here is that, we're so focused on this incentive as a game and how to get the attention, but that other part of it, like what game really fits in with this. So I think I'm very bullish on the gamification of the social fi and those kind of features, but I'm going to call bullshit on whether this is a real progress going to something that's going to be lasting. Because you got to think about it, when the incentives run out, where is it going to really be at? And I think double tap or something, that podcast, Jackal and Alex, they had this one game on there, and it was massive wagering. And then as soon as they figured these whales had, amassed enough losses to get as many points as they could on Blast, they just stopped playing. So let's see how it goes.
Lambs gets the last word before we move on.
All right, surprisingly, I'm actually going to say bullish on this because I was super bearish on Fentech when it came out. But this just seems way more interesting to me, and than just, hey, hold a share of someone for a private DM chat. Like, this feels like it fits right in Web3 a lot more. Basically agree with like every point Brian made when he made it. He like kind of took the argument from you, like, don't fade Pac-Man. Like Dove had said something about that, about when the Blast Gold runs out. But man, Pac-Man, everyone's been saying that about from Blur season 1. We're now in season 3. He's got this Blast Ponzi. Like, he's going to keep this show going and just keep it going over and over. And then just a note on the how much influencers were paid. As Knox said, everyone gets paid for content in this space. You're doing some kind of sponsored content. I actually think a good share of that revenue probably came from the fact that influencers get a 1.5% fee of trading volume of their card, as well as 10% of pack revenue. And we know that those blew up in the last few weeks and they did a ton of sales. So influencers would have made a ton of money off that. I'm sure they got paid for some sponsored content up front, but now on the tail end, they're getting all this like passive, I guess, quote unquote revenue. So yeah, it's the picture's not 100% clear on where the revenue comes from, but don't just believe the headlines always.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Lems. I've never done sponsored content ever in my life. But ladies and gentlemen, lend your ears to the lure of a Leviathan, the bulwark of the blockchain, the behemoth called Avalanche. Avalanche is pioneering Pathfinder, a prodigious paradigm shifter in the pulsing heart of Web3's digital destiny, and proudly proclaimed as the official blockchain of Gamified. Seated securely at the summit of sophistication, Avalanche's subnets serve as a specialized sphere, allowing architects to sculpt and scale solutions sovereign specificity. Those subnets are the stellar scaffolds that support a spectrum of specialized scenarios, including the one for the Odyssey like no other, Shrapnel, the stellar standout in the official game of Gamified. This isn't just a game, it's an extraction shooter with ballistic systems so sophisticated your bullets don't just hit, they ricochet, turning every shootout into a deadly ballet of bouncing lead. But Shrapnel's far more than firepower and fury, because if you're not fighting for glory, you're fighting for gear. Own your own assets and extract with next level equipment, crafting a war chest that's as enviable as it is effective. Look out for STX3 coming down the pipeline. And let's not overlook the cosmic cornerstone of connectivity, Stardust, the official infrastructure of Gamified. This invisible, ingenious innovation isn't just a tool, it's a white label wonder that weaves the simplicity of Web 2 with the wizardry of Web 3. Imagine the ease of the internet, fused with the frontier of the future, commanding a constellation of over 150 chains in every single EVM, including Avalanche. Stardust stands as a sovereign, as the supreme steward of your in-game gold and steadfast guardian of your gamers' gains. They shoulder the logistics and the liability, ensuring that your treasures traverse the digital divide safely and securely. Let's jump in to the next topic. We've got Lamsey moved stuff. Hero or
I'm sorry, I
villain?
moved it. It's just after the ad read now.
Automatic gameplay as a trend. Is this a sleeping giant or a short term solution to people's ever evolving attention deficit disorder? Night Crows, Rec League with a new release, AI Arena, Champions Arena, Midnight Heist, etc. We also see in Web 2 Mobile a title called AFK Journey has been all the hype. Is this going to be a significant genre going forward as people's schedules are in tighter and are higher and higher in demand, or is this short-sighted trends that developers will be late on whenever they get their products fully to market in the future? Sony also, interestingly, second time they're coming up today, filed a patent to be able to play portions of a game for you, such as grinding levels in an MMORPG. The patent said, quote, the autoplay mode uses data from the user play model to automatically play the AGC for the user using a gameplay style that simulates a gameplay style of the user. That's fucking word salad if I've ever seen it. So, are automatic gameplay games heroes because they're providing us with all this gameplay in times that we wouldn't otherwise have the capacity to play video games? Or are they villains because man, I mean, thinking back to World of Warcraft, if I was actually leveling, paying attention to the game, playing, doing every user input, and then somebody just runs up automatically like a bot and takes all of my fucking farm, I'd be furious. I don't want to live in that future. I'm going to the audience side. I didn't see what order the hands go up in, so I'm going to send it over to Skyhopper from iPad Hooligan first.
Hey, thank you for that. I think automatic gameplay is definitely here to stay, and I think it's going to get better with AI. I think it's actually super important for the Web3 gaming space from a holder's lens in particular. I think a lot of asset holders, whether it be tokens or gaming NFTs, are not always gamers, right? But they're also important to the community overall. So I think it's a way of getting them excited too, giving them some skin in the gaming side too, without them necessarily having to pick up, a gaming machine or a control pad or be a competitive gamer. You give them a way of being involved in a game and following their asset without having to play. You get stories, content, success, adrenaline. I don't think it should be the be all and end all of a game, but I kind of consider it more as like a bolt on or another game mode. I got some pretty dope ideas here. I can't spill them, they're all mine. But I know Parallel's definitely doing something in the space too, which I'm excited to see and I'm looking forward to also. But that's my take, sir.
Yeah, great segue to send it over to Koji, the man behind Colony. Curious in your thoughts here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm morally and financially obligated to say that it's the future, just because I'm investing a bunch of time into it. But also like it actually probably is the future. I wouldn't look at it so much like as a predatory way of like, oh, you don't need to play the games anymore. But what you can do is design around the fact that these games will always be playing and sort of incentivize people to check in, right? So, like, if you think about it, let's talk about, I don't know, name your favorite turn-based game. I'm an old man, so I'm going to say like Heroes of Might and Magic 3 or whatever. It's like you take a turn, something happens, you take a turn, something happens. And those games are great, but you can stop at any point, walk away from your computer, and then pick up your turn, 10 days from now. What this does is allow you to create games that'll be as fun as that, but like force people to check in, right? So it doesn't require the sort of like active reflexes or immense strategy like a shooter or a card game does. So you can get a more casual market, but rather than like giving people, I don't know, the freedom to just like, I mean, this is again predatory. The freedom to just walk away and then come back whenever they feel like. This is like, okay, well, it might be doing things in the background, but if you don't check in often enough, it might be doing the wrong things in the background. You come back and like, you're like what was like a level 30 wizard is now like a level, I don't know, 40 like ditch digger or something, and that's not what you want. And so I think that like what it becomes is more of a design puzzle for us making the games than it does affecting like the gameplay for the end user.
Some great comments. I'll get to them in a second. Going over to Sinjin up next.
Yeah, I think there's a nuance to this. Like, so I'm a total war freak, and there's always an AI component. Whether you see the kind of odds, whether or not they're in your favor or not, you think you can play better. You jump in instead of letting the AI kind of do it, and you look at AI itself. With that Sony patent, you're using your own data set to do the training, or with AI Arena, you're going into like the real nitty gritty to really train it like per kind of move. Or you look at that Nightshade Gate or whatever like that, the Shadow Ravens is fucking gamer masturbation for fucking mobile players. And so like with that range, like I would say on the gamer masturbation side, yeah, like these guys just want to masturbate and see their character and see what the fuck happens, and they're fucking not even gamers anyway, so fuck those guys. But like for the AI side, I think Koji makes a very good point. I mean, if you're directing it, there's a skill element there, then I can consider this a game, but otherwise it's just fucking masturbation.
Yeah, to be clear, I would never put Colony, my understanding of Colony, in this category because it's more like sort of like FIFA manager or NFL manager, if anybody ever played those games, where you're still making decisions about how to organize the team, and the gameplay was never really to play football. Like that's you go play FIFA instead if you want that experience. Colony is about organizing your colony and letting the colony do its thing and then making adjustments over a long time horizon. That's my understanding. Koji can step in if I'm wrong. Slayer has a great comment. She says, maybe I'm old school, but I never got autoplay. If a bot is playing the game for me, what's the point of me being the player? I play games to play. If I want to watch games being played, I'll tune into a stream or watch a movie. She also chimes in below that and says, this is a separate idea this is separate from ideas of an AI learning my play style and watching me play it in a different element of the game, like players challenging my AI shadow, maybe similar to like AI Arena. But I don't want something taking over the game on my behalf. That's my job. Thanks, Slayer. I'm gonna hook you up with a Cityverse whitelist if you don't already have one. Michael O'Connor tagging you in next. Your thoughts on automatic gameplay?
Well, firstly, I just want to say FIFA Manager, like referencing FIFA Manager is, I'm just shocked and tremendously disappointed. There is one football management game and it's called Football Manager, and it's one of the best management simulation games out there for folks who want to get into it. Listen, I'm a fan of simulation games in a massive way, and I'm building one myself, and it's imbued with lots of AI. And I think it's an intriguing proposition, and one of the ones that we constantly explore, and one of the reasons actually that we're building what we're building is to think about what the autonomous behavior of AI beings inside of virtual worlds looks like. What is it when they're able to act and learn according to the world that's changing around them? I think that's a fascinating concept and quite a disruptive concept for the whole games industry, broadly speaking. Like, it's not, obviously I'm not the only person thinking about this, loads of people are, but it's a really, really interesting concept that I think is going to create all sorts of new opportunities for gameplay and for genres. So I want to point that out first. And that's not to say, again, just to be clear, that like you're not doing shit, that you're just like, oh, here, I'm just going to go in and watch. That's not the case. It's that you've got different types of play, but then you've got lots of different types of automatic behavior as well that you're able to influence, for example. So there's really cool opportunities that exist in that as a result of the emergence of AI. I think that, like, I know, for example, that Avalon are exploring it, Parallel are exploring it, and stuff like that. So lots of really cool things to do there. And then the other thing I would say that is, I think, is interesting, which, and shout out to AI Arena who are exploring this as well, is like there is a pretty significant problem that's coming that I don't think we really talk about enough, which is live competitive gameplay is basically right now, like according to right now, is basically totally fucked. It's basically right now, it's inevitable that there's going to be a cataclysmic change to how online competitive gameplay works because of the emergence of incredibly intelligent AI agents that are able to play miles better than you. We've seen them already developed in Minecraft, in No Man's Sky. DeepMind are working on them. We're working on things like this. You've got Wayfinder from Parallel, where you're working on. These things are going to change live competitive gameplay, a lot like there's a huge propensity for the industry to be disrupted. So we need to figure out new different models. And again, the reason I give a shout out to AI Arena and Way and what they're building over there is they're looking for solutions to that problems whereby you would play and essentially train a model to play like you. And in doing that, you're creating a persona, which that persona then goes and plays like you in different competitive environments, which is a quite a novel and interesting solution, I think. So, I suppose like in summary, I think it's an incredible opportunity for really creative, amazing things, but also it's an important thing for us to explore and able to, in order to be able to protect some of the most fundamental aspects of what has emerged from online multiplayer play over the last couple of decades.
Fantastic points from Michael O'Connor on that one. We saw StarCraft 2. I was watching that one up close and personal, and the slow emergence that became very, very rapid of AIs that kicked all the professional players' asses. That was kind of sad how fast it happens, but really, really cool to watch. There's a comment from EMR 2006. He says, I think Sony's patent takes away from the grinders. To your point, I would be pissed if I spent hundreds of hours on a game grinding for gear and someone else just lets their bot run it for them. This one is a no-go for me, sir, even though as a parent, I don't have much time. I'll send it to Nak, who's hitting us with the thumbs down.
Oh, I'm so sorry to call this person up. I hate the concept that I suffered and my gameplay was ass, so it has to be that way for everybody. I play old school RuneScape where we vote on literally fucking everything, and the amount of content that gets literally held hostage by salty players who like were grinding for 700 hours, and the game's like, hey, we realize that this drop rate is totally fucked. We want to retroactively fix this. And there's a subsect of people who are just like, no, I grinded for it. Fuck you. You have to grind for it as well. That just makes the game worse for everybody. I think automatic gameplay is absolutely the future. And I also think that there's a bunch of different ways that you can approach automatic gameplay. TFT is an auto battler, it's literally in the name of the game. Like Dota did the exact same thing. You'll never tell me that people who play games like TFT and Dota aren't real gamers. That game requires an incredible amount of strategy and game knowledge. It requires you playing around with the board, and effectively at the beginning of every round, you sit back and you watch all of the things that you did play out. Did you position your board correctly? Did you itemize your units correctly? Have you built a strong team composition relative to what you're playing? All of these things require real strategic elements that are ultimately played out by a computer or an AI, but that doesn't mean that you don't have input in the game. You've seen this with God games. Games like Black and White have done this. You can play it with Civilization and Age of Empires. One of the most fun ways to play that game is set an automated timer. There's like a whole competitive community for this style of gameplay where you set a time limit of, say, 45 minutes. You go, you build your base, you build up resources, and then at that end of that 45-minute period, you take your hands off the wheel and you let the AI play out the game. Who created the best foundation for their AI to play? Are you going to win based off of the strategy that you put in that 45-minute block? If not, then you'll learn a couple of things and you move back and forth. I think people are afraid of automated gameplay because a lot of people equate it with botting. I agree that the idea of let me pop up a bot and plug it into an MMO and farm this one particular item for 7 years and completely fuck up the economy of the game, that's bad. I don't want that type of automated gameplay. But when it's done well, when it's done through real strategic elements, it one adds a lot to games and creates types of games that just wouldn't be possible. Imagine something like TFT or Dota Auto Chess when you had to control all of the characters. It would be fucking chaotic. The game wouldn't work. And it also helps players get up to speed on specific things. Final Fantasy has implemented a couple of different automated features. You've seen this with a variety of games in the past. It's a really cool way to bring players up to speed on maybe the content that they've missed, or add a strategic element and strategic layer to sort of things with games. You can create new experiences like so many of the people on the panel are doing today. I think the idea that people who want to see automation aren't real gamers is just like a little gatekeepy to me. There's so many different ways to play games, and one of the most fun ways that I play games is through auto battlers and auto chess, and I think it's incredibly strategic. I think it's a ton of fun. I think it's something that more people need to try, and you'll realize really quickly that just because you aren't actually making all of the micro actions with each individual unit doesn't mean that you're playing any less of a game. I absolutely believe that automation in games is the future. I think we're going to see more creative implementations of it as years go on, especially with AI, starting to work its way into games with so many people on the panel today. I'm really excited about the future here, and I don't think it takes away anything from gaming. Automated gameplay is not botting. I want to make that distinction very clear, and when it's done well, it adds so much to the game. People would really enjoy that sort of thing. It's interesting. Ironically, Auto Chess is the name of the Dota mod that became TFT and Underworld and all these other games. I don't even think of that as automatic gameplay because if you ever played it, it is so intense toward the later rounds. There is no way for you to sell things fast enough, buy enough stuff, combine them, reorganize the board, check all the different combinations. Like it is a severely engaging experience, even though aspects of it are automatic. I think this is more so about Night Crows being you hit a button and you could literally AFK, and as long as your phone is still on, you're still leveling. Hakeo with a great comment says AFK games have their own charm, and I would say autoplay full autoplay isn't fun. There's a time and place for this mechanic. And then he chimes in again with Black Desert Online implements autoplay well. You have specific AFK activities, but nothing game breaking. Interesting there. I actually haven't played Black Desert since the release, so I haven't seen those features implemented. I'm going to go to Will's behind the Stardust account.
Yeah, funnily enough, at the start of this section, I was of the mindset automation bad, or automation is not gaming. But sort of as I've been looking and reading, because automated games have been around forever. I remember grinding Cookie Clicker in like 7th grade. That was the entire premise of the game was to automate the production of cookies. And even Clash of Clans to an extent is an AFK game. You play the game ticks on while you're not there. Looking at the Sony patent, the way that it's described is that it's going to, help you like get through grindy sections of the game. And that really kind of flipped a switch in my brain because over the past kind of like 10 or so years in like AAA titles like Assassin's Creed, we've seen this trend towards bad gameplay as a monetization opportunity. All of those quests go gather 400 magical berries to get this super cool sword or pay $5 for the gems to purchase the sword. And I think it's actually really interesting because this kind of model would kill those strategies. It would remove the ability for game developers and publishers to implement these kind of like stagnant gameplay sessions in order to, get on a monetization opportunity. And I think that encourages game developers to be much more creative in how they're approaching potential opportunities for monetization. So yeah.
Great stuff, Wills. I'm going to give a Love Monster NFT to Hakeo for those great comments as well as a retweet. Appreciate you tremendously, brother. Knock got the hand back up. I want to give him a chance at a rebuttal, and then I'll send it to Jerry next.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, Sam. Didn't put the hand back up. I think that's Twitter freaking out.
All right, you're dead to me. Jerry, over to you.
Hold on, I put my hand up because this guy mentions Cookie Clicker and everyone's smiling and laughing, and I mentioned it a few fucking months ago, and crickets, you assholes.
Dude, the fact that Cookie Clickers come up more than once is crazy to me. You guys had like a childhood that I never got to have because I still don't know what the fuck that is. But I really like what Will said. Good hire on Will's, Andy. Good job on that one. He brings up a really good point in that like if we're automating the shit that's lame about a game, can we just like a crazy thought here, guys? Can we just not have it in the game? If we feel like it's so shitty that we need to automate those things, why don't we just not have them, right? And why don't we just put better shit into the game, right? And I in the example of Night Crows, like it sucks and it has no soul and it has no identity because there was no part of you ever really immersing yourself into the game and then appreciating the fact that you can then automate something. Like WoW did this over the course of like the journey. I remember in Warlords of Draenor, you had like little minions you could send and they would do like they'd get like a third of the reward of like a normal daily would get, right? But on the other end of the spectrum, games like AI Arena or auto chess, I think are even because aspects of them are automated, it's almost more immersive, right? You almost get more sucked into the game because you do have a level of influence over the game and you don't have to do the control each menu, which would be impossible, right? And so when I was playing AI Arena, it was more frustrating than playing Super Smash Brothers because I couldn't get my fucking thing to do what I wanted it to do. But I got totally hooked on it, and I ended up spending way more time in that game loop trying to train my agent to do what I wanted it to do than I would have if I was actually playing a game. So I think in ways, if you have the right game loop, it can be a weapon to further, the amount of time people are actually spending in game, thus then purchasing and, just really immersing themselves in it. But it's just a part of it. The automation is a part of it, right? You are still, as a player, you have so much influence over TFT or AI Arena. So I think, right there in the middle ground is a way to have just a weapon for your game. But fully automating stuff, just make more fun shit in the game so we don't have to skip through the boring stuff,
Yeah, I've always wanted to do a topic on this show about gameplay loops and how tight they should be, because I think there's some disagreement here. And then there's obviously games that kind of spit in the face of it, and you have to do shit for 40 minutes and not have the gameplay loop at all. I think the reason why you don't automate everything, but you sometimes automate some stuff, is because TFT is another good example. It's not really a fighting game. It's like an organization and strategy game where you need to see the fighting so that you can understand how it's unfolding. One of the first games that onboarded me into Web3 was absolutely garbage. I can't even remember the name of it, but essentially all you did was you said here's my champion, okay, go fight. And it would just come back to you with statistics. If anybody's played really, really, really core or hardcore fantasy simulations like basketball games, and it literally just comes back and it's you scored 28 points. It is the least satisfying experience that I've ever had in my fucking life, to just be told how many points I got without actually being able to experience how it played and understand it at a deeper level. I'm going to go over to Koji next.
Sorry, I'm having dinner at the same time, but I think, like I said, it goes back to game design, right? Is Plinko a fun game? Yeah, it is. You have some control over where you drop the little disc, and then that's it. Then you watch it and see how it plays out. Is Shrapnel a fun game? Yeah. You have full control over your guy. It's all about how fast you can twitch and do all this bullshit. And there's something for everyone. Fun is not, there's no one gameplay style that dictates fun. You just have to make sure that if your game is going to be automated in some way, the fun is external to the automation, right? The idea, I think people are upset because the idea is maybe for some of these games, grinding is the fun. Imagine you were playing Elden Ring or Dark Souls, except the enemies weren't hard. Well, then the game sucks, because the fun is doing it over and over and over again. And so you learn the repetition, so you learn the patterns, right? So I would say that anyone who's anti this idea, what you have to do is wait and see, because you can't just apply automation to the games you know. You have to see how the designers apply automation to the games that come out.
Okay, Jack just hit me with one of the highest effort memes I've ever seen in Gamified history. We're going to try to pin that up. I see it on my PC, so I can't pin it because Twitter is stupid. But he's definitely winning something for that. I'll double back. I got to check the list and see what we have. Dub, I'm sending it over to you next.
Yeah, I generally agree with what everyone was saying, except for Sinjin. And it's funny because I used to agree with them. I used to say oh, fuck hyper casual. That's a lame thing. But then over this past journey that I've had with playing all these games, I've those are the ones that I've hooked to, or the ones that do have these automation elements that are okay, I go and I check my Far World training every morning now with my coffee or matcha or whatever, and then I'm stoked that they go and do their thing for the day, and then I come back and check the next day. And same thing with alchemy.
I'm glad you jerking off there.
Yeah, and it's a great time, and fuck you for saying that I can't enjoy that time and doing it the way I want to do it, because I'm going to do it even if it's automated. So at the end of the day, I've really grown into these games. I love the actual strategy, the mindset, trying to think of how are the rest of these degens playing this game? Should I spend everything on defense? Are they all doing that? And the level of okay, I can go spend 20 hours of research to play this game better if I wanted to, but I only have 5 minutes, so this is the way I'm going to play it, and that's still okay. I think there's a ton there. We're actually partnered with Alchemy. As everyone knows, we've been building something like this that we're getting close to releasing some alpha for everyone. But the thing that's really cool about these games is that they can also exist inside like new applications. It doesn't have to be on Xbox. This can be a game inside Discord. This can be a game inside Farcaster and like actually inside your social experience and be deeper integrated into the apps you're already using every day. And I think it's just a big win for everyone. Like even in Slack, you can have some of these games. So it's really a cool thing.
Yeah, probably another future topic about the I don't know, the ever presence of games being injected into our social medias, into our communication apps, etc. We could talk about that another date. Brian Kimball again chimes in the comments. He says, if you can automate more gameplay and let users essentially step away from the game, how does this affect performance metrics like concurrent players and DAUs for game companies themselves? He then chimes in again and says, I see the potential for this to hurt performance reports presented to stakeholders and investors. I would assume it would go the other way. And since I'm never turning it off, your retention rate is crazy, and you have more daily active users because you have sessions that bridge between days, etc. I've lost track of the hands. My apologies there. I think Lems has had it up forever. Then I'll go to Sinjin.
I just want to say for the record that I love jerking off. Sorry, go ahead, Lems.
What the?
Jesus.
It's dinner time, Koji. For the love of God, Lems, over to you.
How am I supposed to come in and follow that? I'll just say, just to answer, I think Brian's point might be if everyone assumes that everyone's automated players, kind of like how we dismiss like players in Web3 as being all bots. Maybe that's the point he's getting at. No one thinks they're real players anymore. But to answer this, I would say it depends on the game type, whether it's hero or villain, right? Like something like Colony, AI Arena, I would say hero. Like they're designed around having this automation in the game. Like AI Arena, you're training your AI to battle another AI. Like that's part of the actual game loop. But what Sony outlined in their thing, and I read an article about like saying, oh, imagine if you could have like an AI agent pretend to be you and like grind in Destiny for you. And to me, that just seems super lame. Like someone mentioned earlier about like grinding to the end game is part of the game. Like in a game like Destiny, you're grinding to level up and get better gear and all that stuff. And if you can just like play a couple levels and then have some AI bot like grind for you to get to the end game, and then you just play at the end game, there's like less satisfaction from going through all that stuff. I don't know. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Game like Night Crows, I'm just like boring as fuck. Don't really care about anyway. And I think Jerry had said, like, what about, can we just remove the stuff that's just boring that people don't like? But that's also subjective, right? Like some people like the farming stuff in a game and the thing that's like, it's more passive and it's, you know, a little more casual. And then someone might want to automate that stuff because they don't want to care about farming resources. And then they go and, you know, grind the dungeons or whatever it might be. So I think it really depends on the game loop and how it's implemented. Another thing I've seen people talking about AI agents for is for player liquidity, which I think is a really interesting thing because you can get AI agents that will play and be more like actual real players when you're bootstrapping your game, you're at an early stage, maybe your game that doesn't have a huge number of players, but you have a PvP aspect. And everyone knows it's boring as fuck, especially we've seen it in Web3. You're sitting in a queue for 10 minutes trying to find a PvP competitive game. If you can at least have that filled by agents that are better than your average just generic bot, and they actually mimic real players' gameplay, that's a lot more engaging and a lot more fun. So really, at the end of the day, it kind of depends on what your game type is and how you're implementing it.
Oh,
Hey
sorry,
Sam,
I heard some.
Sam, do you mind if I jump on this one?
Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, this one's my bread and butter. So cool. So we've acknowledged that bots exist in large quantity in games, right? And Web3 and in MMOs, especially, can be pretty bad. And we've acknowledged how it can screw up a game's economy. And Michael said it best, that AI is here to stay, right? The best StarCraft player in the world, AI, it's been the way for a while. Best Minecraft player in the world, it's an AI bot. Most games is that case, and if it's not that case, you can put a training model on it, and it'll be the case pretty shortly. And the best chess player in the world, it's the best AI, is AI. The AI players, basically the best normal human chess players, like basically children to AI, right, by comparison. So how do we solve this? So ironically, blockchain, proof of human is a way to solve this, as well as Verisol and some other interesting tech. But I think rather than just that problem, the way that we look at it is, well, how can we use this technology to augment the user experience, right? And what we're not looking to do at Avalon is like replace the core fun, like what makes an MMO fun. We're not looking to replace the core game loop. It's like, what can we do to like improve the experience, right? And So we're building our AI into Avalon so that they can be trained by these models. They can be believable when you're fighting against them. And because it's UGC, someone could even make like one of these characters we talked about that fights you like a real person. But because it's this AI model we talked about, maybe it's kicking your ass, not because it's a health sponge with a ton of HP, but because it's actually way better than you at the game. And because it's conversational too, you might even think this is a real person, right? Which is not far away from happening at all. And then taking this idea a bit further, and it's something you'll be able to do in Avalon, is imagine walking into a city. There's AI walking around everywhere that are fully conversational. They can get mad at you. They'll fight with you. They are believable. They sound like humans. And then let's say I own a piece of land over here, and this is again how we'd augment the experience. What if I had a blacksmith working for me that I trained? I don't want to sit there and sell goods all day that I've been getting, but this blacksmith that I've trained can do it and trade and do things for me, right? And then taking that idea even further too, what if I could have companions? We saw Dragon's Dogma do this really well, something we're doing in Avalon. So I don't have a healer in my group, but I have this healer AI that I've trained as my companion, right? They can come with me. Or maybe you're an Isekai fan like I am and a bit of a degen, and you decide to build a harem party, right? Cool. You want to do that? You can do that. So I think this technology is really exciting, and I think we need to think about how to leverage it to improve our games. And then we also need to be very wary about how it can also destroy our games if we're not careful.
Important add-on at the end there, making sure that we're careful in the way that we implement it. I'm seeing a lot of people on both sides of this, but most people in the comments seem open to it as long as we're careful in the way that we implement it. Sinjin, over to you, brother. All right, we'll go to Stardust.
Yeah, so as we've been sort of discussing this, a thought occurred to me that like how does this implicate, or like what does this mean for the future of play to earn? Because the whole idea of play to earn was that you would grind and you would go through all of these hours to like get these, you know, elite items that would be worth something. If you can just automate that through an AI bot, how does that is that still viable? And I've been iffy on the PDE thesis for a while now, but I think kind of what we're hearing here is that like it needs to be everything, like all of this automation needs to be implemented in a way that it, one, doesn't touch the fun of the game, but two, doesn't touch the financialization aspects. Because as soon as you can start automating something to print anything that can be turned into real money, everyone is going to be coming in to do that. So definitely a big risk there.
All right, I take it back, Wills. Automate to earn has been my dream for pretty much my whole life because I don't want to work hard. So chill with those thoughts.
Any day now. Michael O'Connor, over to you.
Yeah, just kind of just a slight little follow on from what Sean over at Avalon was talking about. For people who want to dig a little bit deeper into some of the tech that surrounds this, check out scalable, instructable multi-world agent. It's called SEMA, which is an AI agent kind of infrastructure for 3D virtual environments that DeepMind are building. This is pretty game-changing for the video games industry, that we're going to have instructable agents that are going to have contextual awareness of their surroundings that you're going to be able to train up. It's a pretty massive impact on what's going to happen in my view. So that's why I think it's important for us to be able to have these conversations and try to figure out ways to protect our games, protect our specifically certain genres of games, which are, I would say, more susceptible to what will happen as a result of this technology. But there's really cool opportunities. And the last thing I just want to say is go back to just some of the fundamental aspects of some game design kind of talk, which has been a prevalent part of this kind of topic, I think. You know, we've had lots of this kind of automative type design inside of our games, like people who play City Skylines, for example. They spend more time organizing the stuff, but then they do kind of engaging in like the loops that happen after you organized. When you think about turn-based strategy games, people spend all the time getting things ready so they're able to kick them off. And they're more hardcore games like Football Manager, more kind of hardcore games with hardcore communities. But this is not just an isolated thing with hardcore communities. When you think about go back to Farmville, people love the aspect of busy work. Let me clean it up. Let me just clean it up so everything's tidy and neat, and then I'll just get off the train and I'll forget about it for another 2 hours until I'm back on the train and I'll fix it up again. This is a play pattern that people know, and people love. And it doesn't mean that it's the only play pattern. There's lots of different ways, but people absolutely love this. Go back even further and you think about a game like Dope Wars, which is essentially basically a glorified spreadsheet that people organize. So these play patterns have been here for eons and they're not going away. And, you know, I think that the simulation genre, the one that I'm so passionate about, is one that can very much benefit from some of the changes that are happening inside of our industry.
Yeah, definitely agree with you at the end there. Knock, tagging you in, brother.
I'm actually incredibly bullish on what Sean's building for a couple of reasons. The biggest of which is that he seems to have a real deep understanding of real issues that current MMO players face. If you play a game, I'll use WoW and RuneScape because it's the two that I know best. If you play either of those games today and you've been playing for any extended period of time, your experience is something like the following. You go to a major city for a quest or for an item, whatever it might be, there's literally nobody around. It's dead. You think about, oh, fuck, back in the day, this was popping. Like, everybody was here. You could talk to people. You would literally just sit in, like, Orgrimmar or Varrock and RuneScape and just talk to people for hours. It felt lively. It felt like you were part of an ecosystem. That's not the case anymore. In the case of RuneScape, I play the game, as everybody knows, literally all of the time, and I have a bunch of friends who want to play the game with me, and they are literally thousands of hours behind where I am in the game. So our options are one of two things. I don't ever play with my friends, or I lose all of the thousands of hours of progress in the account that I've created, and I start new with them, and inevitably they quit after 3 or 5 months, and I've wasted a bunch of fucking time, and I go back to the account that I was playing anyway. The idea that games, especially MMOs, shouldn't leverage some amount of like automation to help new players who are either way behind in terms of gear, way behind in terms of content completed, or just way behind in terms of hours played, we shouldn't help to make sure that those players have a better experience. That's insane to me. If I'm somebody who is trying to complete a couple of quests and I want to gain a mining level so that I have a quest requirement. Why shouldn't I be able to say, hey, my, XYZ autonomous agent or the automated gameplay portion that I'll be using for the next X number of hours, and I'm paying some form of in-game currency. It can be used as a currency sink. It can be used as an item sink or otherwise paid for within in-game items and goods. Why shouldn't I be able to do that? So while I'm offline, I can come back online, I can complete that quest, and I can get to the level at which my friends are at a lot quicker. I think that this is something that is really prevalent in MMOs. It's a major problem. Anybody who's played these games are so far ahead of anybody that might be interested in playing that game with you. You will literally never play with them because the time commitment is just way too high. And I strongly disagree with the idea that, well, just grind it out. I grinded it out. I played 2,000 hours. I don't care that I've played 2,000 hours of RuneScape. I care that I can play that game with people that I want to play that game with. And if there is a massive content barrier in front of them, then nobody's ever going to play the game. And it's part of the reason why MMOs today have such an issue with bringing in new players, because the time commitment to even just to get to play the game is ridiculous. There's a South Park meme from an episode maybe 15, 20 years ago at this point where he maxes out and he goes, we finally get to play the game. And that meme has become like reality for literally anybody who touches an MMO that has existed for longer than a year now. You literally have to grind away doing shit that you don't want to do to get to levels, because if they can't just boost you there immediately, because you'll fuck literally everything up for the entire ecosystem. But then your options are play this game for 2,000 hours and maybe I still like it enough to want to play with my friends, or don't play it at all. That's a really shitty experience to me. And I think that we're at a point now where there are mature games that could implement things like automation in ways that make sense. Black Desert has been around for a very long time. Automation has been in that game for a very long time, and it only continues to grow. Like, it's very clearly not going to be the thing that kills an MMO or any other genre that implements it well. So this idea of I played and I struggled and I put in all these hours, so you should too, is just so stupid to me, because it actively harms the game that you love and it stops new players from trying it out.
Knock, are
Man,
you playing? Are you playing RuneScape right now?
Yeah, always.
Really well said,
Really?
Knock. Don't forget to check your Venmo account.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm glad we agreed upon that.
No, in all seriousness, I agree 100%. And it's a big part of why we started this company, a lot of what you're saying. So
I'm not convinced Nock ever really stops playing RuneScape. Speaking of automation, and that South Park episode was one of the single funniest and most impactful moments of my entire MMO 10-year journey of teenagehood. Whenever they released that episode, I was playing World of Warcraft at the time and seeing the server just light up with the jokes. And for 6 months, everybody referenced it every single day. It was amazing. St. John, I'm going over to you, then to Lems, then we're moving on to the last topic of the day.
Yo, fuck Twitter. Yo, I just want to be clear because I guess when I speak, I'm not clear and articulate, so I'll try at this moment. So, any game that uses strategy or an aspect of strategy, whether it's setup or whatever like that, like team fight tactics or whatever, or you set up your character, and there's autoplay on that. I think that's great because the autoplay is kind of like it's really just enacting that strategy, right? In gameplay that may or may not be really necessary. But for games that are like cookie clicker, right? Or something like this, where it's just basically there's really no skill involved. You're just clicking, clicking, clicking. And I played it twice because my son was playing it. And after playing it twice, I thought this is fucking stupid. But, like there's a place for dopamine hits and, these easy dopamine hits. And I think when people are younger, they tend to just think, or this current, not to age myself or whatever, this current generation, they just fucking like these dopamine hits and they think that's fucking everything. And that's, equivalent to masturbation. Everyone likes a good jerk off every here and there. That's fine. Go, jerk off every morning you can dub on these games and stuff like that. But there's a, time and a place for that to look at it like in some sense. I want to make the distinction, bots are not AI. I mean, AI is on a different level, like whether it's learning from in-game, whether it's taking structures that you've kind of created and parameters that you've set out and how it interacts. That's something totally different. But on the question of MMOs, this comes down to it. Why isn't it just easier, like, to take out these parts where they're farming? Why is it easier just to put an automation? Why are these parts in it? Because making MMO for the last, like, I guess, like 10, 15 years has been on a formula, and it's fucking hard to do. Right. And at the end of the day, like what we're really doing here in Web3 with AI and stuff like that, that really moves the needle is that, we are not working on any formulas. We're doing something that's completely new. Everyone who's a game designer here is developing an original game to some degree. If you're a new game designer, you work for an existing MMO or a major company in Korea, right? You're not designing something original. You've been giving specs and you're going to design, whatever this little bit of the weapon systems or this particular class or so on and so forth based on this formula. So, long story short is that I think, again, it's a range. But again, for my personal preference, I think, what we define as gaming, not just on financial terms, but on like real actual skill, I think that's the distinction for me.
Great stuff. Adrian in the comments asking if I know the Baron's chat reference. Of course I do. Lems, over to you.
All right, I'm going to mostly agree with Knock, and then he's probably going to tell me why I'm an idiot because I'm going to disagree a little bit. So I mostly agree with what you had on the MMO side of things, and I think it's good to have catch-up mechanics and a way for people to fast track to catch up. But I do think it's like flawed if you can have where someone can come in, play a game for like a couple hours, then just have an automated gameplay, and they catch up to the other players, and then they go try and do like a raid with them or something, and they don't know the maps, they don't know how things work. You're trying to carry them along, and they're technically the same level as you, but they haven't actually learned how to play the game because they haven't spent the hours to play the game. I don't think someone should have to go through the bullshit 2,000 hours. I think that kind of sucks. But I think there should be a way to fast track, but it should be capped to a certain degree. Or there should be something where they actually have to learn the game and be able to enjoy the game and experience the game, as opposed to just being fast tracked to the end game. Because that's kind of like reading the last page of a book or something and just like fast tracking to the end and then thinking you know the whole story. And that's kind of my take on it.
Knock, put the hand back up, give you 15, 30 seconds, and we're going to move on.
Yeah, one, I'll teach you. Just get to my fucking level quicker so that we can play together and I'll teach you how to get through it. I don't care if you slow me down. I want to play with my friends. That's my point behind like the automation piece here. The other thing is a really quick example of literally an automated system that has existed in RuneScape for 20 years. It's called Kingdom of Miscellanea. Users will put in a certain amount of gold. You can then go through your kingdom. You do a couple of cleanup to build like loyalty points with the people within that kingdom. And then every single day, they will deliver you resources, whether it be herbs or logs, whatever it is that you wanted them to do. But the point is, it's a really strong catch up mechanic as an additional way to just build some resources for account progression. And it's a money sink for in game GP. So every user who plays RuneScape for any amount of time, every single day, the first thing they do when they log in is they go, they top up Kingdom, they make sure that their distribution is set up the way that they want it to work, and then they collect their resources. It really hasn't had a negative effect on the economy of the game at all. It helps with account progression, makes it really easy for new players to start getting these resources, and it acts as a gold sink for the game that desperately needs a gold sink. If done well, even in really well established games, stuff like automation can work.
Somebody call the police. Knock loves RuneScape. Fuck. This is a really good point. It's a really good point. Think Tank. We're moving on to a new topic, new game mode. Honestly, KOL rounds are broken. Apparently, how do we fix them? We're seeing a ton of KOL rounds and pre-sales before token launches. Many projects are not even bothering to do public sales anymore. You either participate in a pre-sale or essentially buy an NFT that's just a token voucher for a future airdrop. There's a lot of issues here. Some of the terms suck for KOLs, like 2-year unlock schedules that are just ridiculous. There's too many rounds happening close together, so it's a fight for liquidity, and no one can seem to agree on how much support or content KOLs should be trading in exchange for better terms. And then does trading content and exposure for better terms, does that make you an ambassador? And then do you have to disclose that? And if you disclose that, how do you disclose that? People aren't happy on both sides, just seemingly endlessly. So my question for the panel: what's wrong with KOL rounds in your eyes, and do you have a suggestion on how we actually fix this across the board? I don't see any hands up. We could just move on to another topic if it's completely boring. I'm going to send it to Lems, who I know has at least a couple thoughts on this.
Yeah, I feel like we're in a fight for attention on token sales right now. It is everyone feels like they need to launch their token by the end of Q2, and it's just like chaos right now. Is like maybe token season is like going to cool off a little bit. Feels like there's way too many of these rounds. I'm confused as to why public sales have been totally abandoned. And they happened a lot before, and now I've seen almost everything is a pre-sale, and you have to like vest that, and then it's like again trying to do the whole low float high FDV, so everyone gets like a good TGE percentage. Feels really broken. I thought Web3 fixes this. I don't know what the solution is. I just want to complain about the problem.
Over to Koji, then to Knock.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people aren't putting their hands up because it's a tough thing, right? Like as somebody who runs a project, mind you, when we first launched Prime, there wasn't like a KOL round or anything like that. But um, I think that the idea of wanting to let key players in and ensuring they have stake in the game makes sense because you want your message amplified and like why else work with KOLs when that's like the main reason. And the thing is, like, when you're first starting out, a lot of these projects don't have the funds to give these people. So, in our space, plug your ears. It's because it's not a security, but like, rather than give out shares of the company, maybe you give out tokens so that people can, feel somewhat invested in the project. And so, like, you can't really blame a project for doing these rounds. I think that like everything crypto, once something works, it gets overblown to the point of like insanity, right? It's like, hey, that worked a little bit, so let's kick it up to 100 so that basically this entire round is all KOLs and all they do is talk about our fucking project, and then you know the people can be exit liquidity for it or whatever. And so I think we have like we as a space, we're not very good at moderation, but we really have to learn some moderation because I think these things can work if done correctly, but we tend to not want to do things correctly.
Slow and steady, and then all at fucking once as soon as it works slow and steady, and then ruin it for everybody. Knock, over to you.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's even a moderation problem. I think the problem is too many teams in Web3 for way too long see something work for somebody else, They have no care in the world for the context behind why that particular thing worked. And they said, that team did it, so I'm going to do it. Just like every fucking NFT sale for a team who has no idea how the ecosystem works and goes, this team launched at $2 million, but didn't pay attention to the fact that that team participated within the ecosystem for 2 years. They built a strong community. They paid attention. They have a playable game. They've become a thought leader. Like they just see something work and then they try to replicate it. And in this case, I really strongly believe that thing that worked was Portal. So a lot of teams saw Portal go off well. They saw the fact that they did a KOL round. A bunch of KOLs made a fuckload of money. And then other people wanted to follow people into KOL rounds to try and emulate what happened with Portal. Now what you have is when you're bringing KOLs into a round, you should really be trying to achieve, at least from a team's perspective, one of two things. One, you're trying to better align yourself with important KOLs that you believe in, that align with your values and your vision, that align with the game and the ecosystem that you're creating, people that you trust. You want to reach out to them, you want to talk to them about maybe general direction, and make sure that they have a vested interest in the fact that if this game does well, then hopefully, potentially, maybe assets that are associated with it will also do well. And you have real incentive to be a part of that community and to be a spokesperson for it. That's one of the two paths to bring in a KOL. The other path, maybe a little bit of a dirtier path, but it's an emulative of what we've seen in the NFT world, is you want to do a public sale, so you bring KOLs in the KOL round, so those KOLs are incentivized to bring more people into the public sale, so that their investment feels better for them. They make a little bit more money. The team brings on a little bit more money because you've got a public sale, and everybody in theory is happy. What has happened is we've completely foregone number one. Very, very few teams who are doing any sort of KOL round are like, these are 5 or 6 people that I really want to deeply align ourselves with and that we care about and we think are good opinion leaders within the space. Most teams don't do that anymore. The second batch is the public sale, but they've foregone the public sale and opted to instead just extract as much as humanly possible from KOLs or strategics. And what ends up happening there to games, typically blows up in the face of the game, is you have a bunch of KOLs get into a round, typically at a pretty aggressive FDV, typically at pretty bad TGE unlock, and just generally speaking, an unlock schedule for the creator. Things that might make sense from like a business perspective and are actually probably, very fiscally responsible for the teams themselves. But from a KOL perspective, it was actually kind of shitty in terms of how quick you get to a liquidity event. They move these rounds into things that are aggressive and front loaded and make more sense for the game than it does for the KOLs. They completely forego public rounds. KOLs get pissed. They talk negatively about that game. And now the public doesn't want to touch the token with a 10-foot pole. It's become chaotic because people have become less thoughtful in the way that they design these things. You should leverage KOLs. I don't think that that's the problem at all. But the way that you leverage KOLs needs to be well thought out. You need to have a plan. You need to work with people that you believe in, that you're relatively aligned with, that you think for one reason or another might help to push the game, the ecosystem, the platform, whatever it might be, forward. But a lot of teams, and frankly, a lot of KOLs, have stopped thinking. And they say, token coming, do you want in? KOL say yes, here's $5,000. And we stop thinking about it altogether. And we never, ever interact beyond that one very, very transactional exchange. I don't think KOL rounds are fundamentally flawed. I think the way that we're executing them on both sides, both the games and from the KOLs, need to be reworked. We need to be a little more thoughtful. They are incredible levers for teams to pull if done well. I don't think a whole lot of teams are doing it well right now.
Very, very, very well put together statement there. Sinjin, over to you.
Yeah, I completely agree with Nog. I'll say that we did not really KOL round, but we opened it up to 10 KOLs that I particularly respected and liked. We haven't announced who they are, and we put them into our basically our seed round. And when I sent them the agreement, it was a safe, so it was for equity plus a token warrant. It wasn't a SAFT. And I put into the email for onboarding in really bold letters, please understand that this is, like for equity and token warrant and not like just for tokens only. And I wanted them to be very clear before they came on that, this was going to be a long haul. This was for equity. There would be some, obviously unlock at the same with the investors in that round. But, also I was taking it, making it very clear and being very careful that, for these KOLs coming in because they're taking equity, that I assume that a majority of them were non-accredited. Right. And so, there's a limit to how many non-accredited investors you can have on your cap table anyways. But I don't think there's a downside to this. I think the whole thing with our space, though, is that, and Knock mentions this a lot, and I agree and I disagree to some degree, is that, if the founding team or if the objective of the token launch or all this attention is just to get as much money as fucking possible, right, now before either it's not possible to raise or the token will eventually tank, and then you have a year or two to build. I don't know if I really buy that entirely. To some degree, yes, you have to get that hype up, and I guess at the end of the day, if it's just about attention, do the biggest KOL round you can, raise as much as you can, and then, go forward and, build out whatever you can. But I think if you do it in a strategic way, you're also picking KOLs that are more aligned with you. But again, if your idea is just short term, I guess that's where all the issues come out.
Great stuff, St. John. I'll go to Michael O'Connor, then to Skyhopper. Also, Pawn in the audience says 2 hours is not enough for Gamified anymore. He couldn't be more right because we skipped like 3 topics that were still bursting at the seams, but it's been a fantastic episode. Michael O'Connor, your thoughts on KOL rounds?
Yeah, so just to kind of tie it back to what we said earlier on about how projects are all, trying to connect to KOLs for very clear strategic reasons, in games, in everywhere, right? It's not just even Web3, but it's probably more important in Web3. One of the reasons might be because inside of Web3, marketing is so important. What we've often seen is it's often far more important than even the product that people are building. If you market the thing well enough, the token pumps. And as we've often seen, the thing behind the token, the supposed product, may not even be there. So controlling the narrative is part of being successful in crypto. And it's something that all projects have to kind of learn probably the hard way in many situations. And it's why it's so difficult for Web 2 folks to come over to Web 3. They just can't believe that, like, oh, hold on, you can put the product on the long finger. And that's just like, I don't even know if it's a sad truth. It's just a truth, right? It's just marketing plays such a prevalent role in the success of projects inside of crypto. So connecting to those KOLs is important, and people will invest, substantial amounts of money or, allocation of their token to make that work. And what's happened is because once in the bear market, we didn't see as many KOL rounds, but and as soon as things kind of shifted, all of a sudden, loads of projects start planning their token, and they're now vying for attention. Projects just coming out of the woodwork, vying for attention. And who are the people that garner the attention? It's those KOLs. So they rush towards trying to find a structure that's going to work. And yeah, sometimes the structure can work, and sometimes it's pretty misguided. And I think that Knock and as well as Sinjin are totally right. One of the ways that it becomes misguided is you're strategically not aligned with the folks that you bring on. And ultimately, like, if you're bringing on any investor into your company, into your business, into your well, maybe not token, it's a bit different, but certainly into your business, you want those folks aligned with you, and that's super important. And I think that for me, and again, don't get me wrong, I don't have all the answers on this one. It's a moving goalpost. It's fucking crypto. Things are changing so rapidly on this constantly, and the narratives are shifting. But for me, it's always about doing good business with good people and cementing positive relationships with people who you trust and who believe in your vision, and working with them to garner the kind of attention that you want and the kind of message that you want to put out.
Yeah, I put out a tweet maybe 2 days ago now that said something along the lines of my number one tip for people working with KOLs is find people that genuinely have a passion for your product because the output that you get from them will be 10x higher than super transactional relationships. I'm sending it over to Skyhopper from iPad Hooligan for his thoughts on this.
Hey. I'll try and give you my thoughts on this. I guess I'm going to try and give you both sides of this. It all depends on how it's conducted, which I think is the general meat of this conversation, right? But it also depends on what you see a KOL as. Do you consider KOLs purely as influencers, or do you consider them as people who can add value with their expertise or network? I think that's important, and I think that most projects just see KOLs as influencers and nothing else, and that's all they want them for. Nothing necessarily wrong with that, right? Like, listen, in the traditional world, a big portion of a brand's marketing strategy are influencer-based advertising and more, right? Let's say Sophia Richie's wearing some new Laura Piana sandals. It's going to be an instant sellout. These deals happen all the time in the traditional world, but often in this space, it can be misunderstood and can be frowned upon, right? Expertise, influence, and marketing is important for any product in the space, but it's different here because there's often an opportunity for someone to make money before someone else can, and a lot of multiples, and that's where it kind of gets tricky. So again, it's how it's conducted. A lot of projects feel like they need KOLs, but it's often again just for influence, just for attention. And this space thrives on attention, and KOLs can help support that. But there's actually more depth and layers to this. Like, projects often want to use names to pump their investment decks. They want to use names for conversations and due diligence with exchanges too. And the community often want to know that there are KOLs involved that will talk about a token or project and help keep the word out there and help keep their name out there. This kind of, what I'd say, is somewhat of a new innovation of immediate unlocks for KOLs that can be a bit controversial with communities, and you see is popping up a lot recently. Can be a bit dicey, right? A lot of exchanges are also pushing back on unlocks too, so that may be a factor in the structures that are being offered to KOLs right now. You know, we have seen a lot of projects actually pushing unlocks back to make deals with certain exchanges. I think Binance probably a few weeks ago, or maybe even a couple of months ago, actually released a bit of a statement around that as well, where they're not allowing any immediate unlocks for any kind of team founders or KOLs. It has to be a 12-month minimum. So that's something to definitely factor in there as well. So it is quite a difficult piece to navigate. But some of the things happening right now, and I can see from a community perspective with tokens and KOLs and even staking mechanisms, right? E.g., stake my token and get a token from another project that you can dump instead of getting APR on your host token. All of this stuff kind of reminds me a little bit of the early 2022 NFT whitelist meta, where certain individuals in privileged positions were getting whitelisted and dumping on retail on day one. So again, coming back to, it all depends on your launch strategy. Do you want to do a pre-sale or a public sale? Do you need to make noise? Do you see a KOL as just an influencer, or do you see it as somebody who can add expertise? But otherwise, I'd say if it's just about attention, look after your community and development first, and let your community be the mouthpiece. Let them be your influencers. Most of the calls, a lot of calls actually are self-proclaimed calls, right? A lot of them I've not even heard of, and they pop up all over the place. Some are dark syndicate networks out there too. Some of them are in the super dark depths of crypto Twitter. It's like doing deals with the devil's assistant. Like, sometimes you got to have a shower. You got to have a shower after even talking to some of these dudes on Discord. However, there are some dope people out there with great expertise. I don't necessarily see them as a typical call. I guess that word's kind of getting a little bit dirty as well. I see people who are actively delivering for the space, e.g. you, Sam, right? I don't necessarily see you as a call. I see you as somebody delivering value for the space and someone who can bring value to a project through your expertise and network. And same goes for some of the other individuals in here too. And people like you are appreciated, and you can bring other things and not just attention. So it all depends on what you see as a call, as what you want them to do, and also the dynamics of having to navigate through this space where things change all the time and you have to do deals with certain individuals, you have to bring attention, you have to kind of look at things in terms of an exchange lens as well. There's so much to this. I don't know what the answer is, but I think KOLs are definitely important. But I think expertise network is more important than just making noise for overall sustainability. I hope that makes sense. I probably was all over the place a little bit there, but I could talk about this for a long time.
No, I thought that made total sense and really, really appreciate that endorsement. Feel the same way about you guys. I am an advisor for My Pet Hooligan. Shout out to Tony who facilitated that, and also Skyhopper for being a great guy. It's been awesome working with you guys, and super stoked about the way that you've approached everything and the success that My Pet Hooligan has had over the past month. That's going to do it for our show today, guys. As we reload and regroup, let's give a tactical salute to Shrapnel, the premier extraction shooter powering the pulse of Web3 gaming. Shrapnel hosts the best live events in the gaming galaxy, tournaments where tactics and tenacity are tested under the watchful eyes of a global audience, while Dub and Cairo slam their keyboards and make memories. But what truly sets Shrapnel apart is the team, a platoon of pioneers in the Web3 wilderness. They're the architects of your arenas and the guardians of your gameplay. Special shout out Tony, Dub, Saigo, big thanks to Shrapnel for being the official game of Gamified. And let's not forget the power behind the play. It's Avalanche, the official blockchain of Gamified. Get ready to rally with legends as Avalanche powers up partnerships with the titans of esports like Korea's famous T1 esports team, doing activations in North America, or doing activations in Korea, or with North America's TSM Blitz migrating to their subnets. At Avalanche, every click, clash, and conquest is supercharged with the coolest tech in the cosmos, making history one block at a time. So stay frosty, and remember that in the Web3 gaming world, Avalanche is where the legends are playing, and Stardust is the official infrastructure of Gamified. So before you log off, let's zoom in on their latest game changer, Stardust's new user acquisition tool. Imagine snagging the spotlight for your digital domain, drawing in droves of dedicated gamers, all at a fraction of the cost. Stardust makes it happen by tailoring your reach to the right players at the right time. So keep your games glowing and your player base growing, and let Stardust be the secret sauce to your success. A huge shout out to this absolutely Titan packed panel today. We got Koji, Sinjin, Jerry bringing up the usuals, Dub as well, Lems of course, but Will's behind the Stardust account, the secret weapon over there apparently. We also have Michael O'Connor, one of my favorites over the last year of Gamified. Always appreciate whenever you make time for us yet again. Skyhopper behind the My Pet Hooligan account, flexing those muscles and that knowledge at the very end, as well as a few times throughout the show. You were absolutely incredible. You're welcome back anytime. As well as Sean, what's the word? Compared to Paul Bettner earlier, which is about as high praise as I can possibly give. So you're also welcome back absolutely anytime. Jerry as well from Uptick, mentioned you with the regulars. Appreciate you as always. Some of the regulars, since I overbooked by one, just wanted to give you guys a special shout out for allowing me to rotate the panel and make space. Still hoping one day Twitter expands the panel here a little bit so we don't run into that issue again. But a huge thank you to everybody. If you want a giveaway today, Lems or Icy will be in your DMs to make sure that that gets fulfilled. And I will see you guys next week, same time, same place. Thanks, Gamified, for being the best part of my week every single week. Love all you guys. Big smooches.